My name is Jeff Shaner. I'm a product manager within our applications group at Esri. And with me is Craig Gilgrass. He's the product owner for Workforce and a new application called Tracker that we'll talk about today as well. And we have a few distinguished guests from the Workforce and Tracker team in the audience. Want to just put up your hands, folks? No hiding. Mabel? Yeah. I see Scott in the back too. So what we want to do today is give you a brief introduction to Workforce, show you the components of the system, do some demonstrations, and then talk about the road ahead and a little bit more in depth on this new functionality with location tracking that's coming. Before we start, who in the room here today has used Workforce? Just a couple of you. How about any of our other mobile apps like Collector? All right, most of you. Survey123? Any Navigator people? Couple. Explorer? Couple. All right. So starting off with kind of what Workforce for ArcGIS is. Workforce is really your to-do list on the mobile device. It's the list of things that you need to accomplish each day. It's those tasks that are assigned to you from the office that help you get your job done. And there's both a web component for that person that assigns you work, we call them the dispatcher, and a mobile application that sits on your smartphone or tablet device that integrates with Collector, Survey123, Explorer, and Navigator, so that you can accomplish those tasks using our field data collection apps or get to the work with our Navigator app or whatever it might be. The other key aspect of Workforce is location awareness. So important to assigning the right task to the right person is knowing where they are and being able to use a map to help assign work to that appropriate person based upon their location. So Workforce has location awareness. It knows where each mobile worker is and lets that information be shared with the other workers in the field if you want to work together as a team and collaborate as a team. Or with the back office. So I want to give you a few examples of how Workforce has been used by our customers today to help provide additional context. With Puerto Rico Vector Control, they're using Workforce combined with Survey123 to do mosquito abatement workflows. They've actually got 3 Workforce projects in place. One to kind of deploy out traps to capture mosquito larvae, and another one to kind of manage the day-to-day maintenance of those traps, as well as go out and capture mosquitoes so they can test them for the Zika virus. And the third one is about vector control, being able to go out to the neighborhoods, talk to local citizens about how they can accomplish some best practices around maintaining, water within their areas and reduce the spread of mosquitoes and potential virus. So a really nice adoption of our mobile technology. There's a blog article that's out in the ArcGIS blog to support this workflow as well if you want to learn more about it. Another one, a little different workflow, comes from a petroleum company named Apache. And this picture was from our petroleum conference back in April. And what they've been doing is essentially daily inspections on well pads. And so in their workflow, they have a SCADA system, which is a set of sensors that are monitoring things like water pressure, oil pressure, amount of water levels, and when alerts happen on that system, perhaps something's performing poorly, events happen, alarms go off, and they can dispatch their mobile workers out to the well pad to do repair work. And so they've built a whole system and eventing framework around doing that that's centered on Workforce dispatching out their field workforce to get the work done on time. Last one I wanted to mention, which is kind of a unique use case for us, and it really drove us towards one of the reasons that we're doing the location tracking work, was a cold case in Elmore County, where we deployed a workforce on, you can see in the very far right, about 125 Android smartphones to law enforcement officers and cadaver dog handlers in search of a woman that went missing roughly 20 years ago. We had to cover about a 320-acre property, and the search grids were set up, and teams were deployed to cover that search grid. And then we could use geoanalytics to look at the coverage within the search grid to determine whether or not there were any gaps, any missing areas in our coverage. On the left is a dashboard where you're looking at the district attorney showing someone in real time the law enforcement staff moving in on the property. And the quote from him was, "This is cool as shit." So, can't really comment about the case too much. It's still an active crime scene, but I would say that we were able to show the technology to the family, and they were very impressed with that, and it helped give them a little sense of, hey, you know, people are still concerned about our daughter that went missing. So overall, that was a success for us. And perhaps one of the biggest deployments in an emergency management situation of our technology to date. So what I wanted to do, and hopefully my iPad's somewhat charged, this demo is going to be quick as it's at 4%, show you workforce.
Nothing like being prepared.
Workforce for ArcGIS on an iPad.
No questions.
No questions.
Because he only has 4%
flip it over.
of time.
I only have 4%.
Which number? Which one?
Find it. Dude, come on. 4%. There we go. So here's workforce on my iPad. About to die. It's at 3% already. Because we're not efficient in the battery usage. No, just kidding. So we have multiple projects on the device. I'm going to open one up. And in this case here, we're looking at water operations within San Diego. And you can see on the iPad that I have a list on the left. If this was on a phone, that list would cover my phone, right? And it would be kind of like the Notes app or the to-do list on your phone. And it gives me the tasks that were assigned to me by, let's say, Craig as the dispatcher or the supervisor within the water district. And I've got a number of things that I need to accomplish during the day. And as well, you can see...
You're at 2%.
Oh, goodness. You can see that we have a map next to it, right? So we can see the location of the work assignments. We could add in additional GIS layers like the hydrants, the water mains, and whatnot. And we have the list of assignments that we can complete that are organized based upon, you know, their importance. And you can sort them in different ways, whether it be distance next to you and whatnot. I don't know what you're doing. It's okay, I'll be quick with this. And so you can see these different assignments. If I tapped on this one called backflow inspection, say I need to go do a backflow preventer inspection, I can add notes into that assignment. There could be documents, perhaps the CAD drawing of the backflow preventer device, so I understood, you know, exactly what model that was out there for the assignment. And then Workforce provides the interaction with the other applications. So if I tap on the action button, I might want to use Survey to do that backflow preventer inspection. And if I tap Survey at assignment, it'll remotely launch Survey123, take me right into the form that I need to do to complete that backflow preventer inspection, which I will not do as I am not qualified to do a backflow preventer inspection, and I understand they're quite involved.
You also have 1% of battery left.
And that's fine. When you're done with the work assignment, you finish the inspection, you can tap Finish on the work assignment, and that manages a set of date timestamps that you can then use to do analysis, like how efficient was my workforce when they were doing those backflow preventer inspections? What could I do to improve that over time? And so all of that information is fed into the back office, and thank you, I just barely made it. Can you please charge that for the next demo?
Ladies and gentlemen, a hand for Jeff Shaner.
But
normally a 2% demo isn't good,
I know.
but that was solid.
And that's why I'm not on the big stage, Greg.
Well, that's not the only reason.
Yes. So here's Workforce for ArcGIS in the back office. So what I'm going to take you through next is you as a GIS professional, thank you, creating, that's really small, creating workforce projects to set up your field workforce to make this all come to life, right? This was the one that I had open, but I'm just going to click Create Project, and I'll call it Craig is Not Funny. That's actually going to be the name of our project. And what's happening here for you that are GIS professionals in the audience is that Workforce is creating a whole schema around a project concept and storing it inside of your organization. That's 4 feature services, 2 web maps. It's putting it in a folder. It's sharing that all into a new group that it's creating, so you don't have to do all that work yourself. We got tired of watching Craig do all of that himself, and it took him like 20 minutes or so a project. So a lot of effort's involved in trying to create one of those manually with all the pieces inside of ArcGIS Online. And this wizard process that we have in place really guides you through the workflow. So in here, I can then, now that I've got that shell created of a project, I can type in a bunch of assignments by their assignment type that really guide the field workers based upon the types of tasks they do each day. So it could be like a service shutoff. I think we were doing that at Craig's place last week. I don't know, can't pay his bills, whatever it might be. Backflow, preventer, inspection. Probably spelt that wrong. I definitely did. And you get the idea. So I would encourage you to spell things properly, of course, but you can use the language that makes sense for your mobile workers and the work that they do, right? And because everything you do here translates to what happens in their user experience on the mobile device. Next, you can add the users that are part of this project. So I can add myself as a dispatcher role. That's the person that creates assignments. And myself also as a mobile worker, someone that goes out into the field and completes that work. And when you look at the details of the mobile worker role, oops, which I just removed myself. I'm in the process of removing myself. And now need to show you again how to add. There's additional details. Something else I'll point out, since I had the opportunity to do that again, is that if you have a somewhat large mobile workforce, you can add them from a file. And Craig will show you some of those details later. But you could load in those mobile workers rather than having to add them one by one. But when I click on the details, here I can add additional information about each of our field workers. So Craig, why don't you give me your phone number?
It's 909
909
2853.
No.
Extension 1132.
Okay, because of that, we'll call him a jerk.
It's Jeff Shaner's extension, everyone. Jeff Shaner.
And then in the notes, we'll say has no skills. So that information about Craig is stored, and it's information that is shared between the details of the mobile worker and also for the dispatcher. So when it goes to assigning work, I can tell that I'm going to have to do the simple things with Craig because he has no skills. And in the Advanced tab here, we can do app integration. And I'm going to leave this for Craig, but that's where you could integrate Survey123 and Collector and the other applications. And there's a lot you can do there with passing information from the assignment itself over to the app that's used to do data collection or inspection workflows. So that, with that, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the the process and the flow here. So thinking about it, you know, we've got this process of where you can create. I didn't even show that. I did a Craig. I missed a whole part of my demo. Man, let me go back to this for a second. I showed you the administrator's view, and we made this project, but I didn't show you how to create an assignment. You're supposed to call me out on that stuff, Craig. Let's open up the project that is called Craig is Not Funny. And here we can kind of zoom in to the area, and we can create work, right? You can give it a default extent. In fact, let's jump back out. I'll show you one other thing. In the Craig is Not Funny project, I like saying that, there's two maps I mentioned, dispatcher map and worker map. If I click on the dispatcher map, I get an embedded ArcGIS viewer inside of it. And in here I can, you know, like zoom into the area and save that extent because we're not working in all of North America. And I can also search for layers and add them. So say I had a, you know, a hydrants layer. I could search for that layer, and I can add that layer directly in to my map. And we'll just zoom in a little bit closer even on the convention center.
Why is there a hydrant in the middle of Coronado Bay?
GPS accuracy? I don't know.
Who's the product manager for Collector that allowed that to happen?
I have no idea. I should talk to that guy. Yeah. Yeah,
you can call him and ask him. You now have his extension. Yes.
So going back into this view, which is now, you know, that the dispatcher or the supervisor could potentially use, we see the hydrants and the mains, and we can start to create assignments. There's a couple of ways you can do that. I can click the plus assignments button. Here we'll have our poorly spelt types. We'll pick one that's not that big of an issue, like a service shutoff, although we don't have laterals in here. And then there's some information that you can define as part of that assignment. One is a location. I could tap on the map to kind of set that location and then fill out the information. But you know what? Another way that's probably more effective in this workflow, I could tap on, say, a hydrant itself or a group of them and say create assignment directly at its location. And say it's a service shutoff. I'm doing a service shutoff on a hydrant. But there's that information provided there. And then I can assign that to a mobile worker. I can give it a priority. I could give it a due date. I could give it a time. I can give it an ID. And this raises something else I wanted to mention is that for routine work, you probably wouldn't want to use this user experience because those are maybe annual hydrant inspections or whatnot that you're needing to go accomplish. You can take and use our Python API. You could integrate that work with a work management system using the Python API, load that in, and pass along with it maybe a work order ID and shove that into that ID field. We provide the ID field when you want to use this application to kind of add those assignments that are maybe unplanned. They happen during the middle of the day, and you're just pulling that directly off of your work management system. You can add a description to the assignment itself, and you can attach files as well. So as I mentioned when I did that very quick demo of the mobile application on the backflow preventer, maybe I had a PDF document that was the CAD drawing of the backflow preventer. I could attach that, so that information is readily available for me to kind of help me through the process of doing the inspection. And then likewise, which I did show in that really fast demo, which maybe Craig will show in his, is as a mobile worker, I can attach photos to the assignments that I've completed or couldn't complete as well. So if I want to document my work, I can attach a photo to it and send that back so that in the end, when all that information is stored inside the GIS, it's available for me to make better decisions with. So that's just a very quick look at, you know, the different roles. The mobile worker, the GIS manager that sets everything up, and the dispatcher that kind of creates and assigns work within the system.
One of the things I'll mention as a tip is when Jeff he clicked on that hydrant and created an assignment from it. If you looked in the location field, it was a number there. That was the asset ID of the hydrant. What we do is we take the pop-up title of the pop-up configuration and we seed that into the location of the assignment for you. So it gives you a shortcut. So if you got a description of the asset that you're clicking on and creating an assignment from, you can set that to be the pop-up title on the pop-up config, and that'll automatically get used for the location. And then you can edit that location afterwards if you like, but it gives you just a little shortcut to be able to get that information across into it.
Good pro tip. So if someone were to ask us, is Workforce for ArcGIS a work management system? We would say no, it's absolutely not. It's a way to bring work management into ArcGIS, and that's a challenge for a lot of folks. But in some instances, maybe smaller organizations that are either doing this today with paper or in an Excel spreadsheet, it could also act as their work management system, but it's not taking work management to the extent of resource allocation, timesheet management, sequencing and time windows for logistics purposes. That's not our intent with this product. It's really to bring order to the mobile work that you do with Collector and Survey123, right? And with that said, you can, as I mentioned earlier, take data from the spreadsheet. You can load it into the work assignment schema if you want. You could even extend that work assignment schema. We document all of it, which I'll show you in a minute too. So you can bring that data in, and you can take it back out to your work management system. But that's up to you and your processes and how you work. And once it's in, then obviously you can assign work. The mobile workers go out, complete that work, and you can take it back out. And we kind of talked through this, but a workforce project's inside of your ArcGIS organization. It's supported in both ArcGIS Online as well as ArcGIS Enterprise, and it creates a set of content within the organization. The item, the maps, the layers, folder, a group, all of that. And we document the schema for you as well. And we provide some Python scripts in a GitHub repository that lets you do that work for that automation of creating assignments. And in fact, we've included Workforce now inside of the Python API to help you streamline the use of the Python API with Workforce. The administration of workforce projects, we kind of talked about that already. I showed it to you. There's some key concepts there. They are items within your organization. There is a home page that lets you get at all of their workforce projects, and as the project owner, that's where you can configure or change the schema, especially when you make spelling mistakes. You can add that additional content in there that's the contact number and some notes and a job title, all that, and manage those maps and the integration with the other apps. With the dispatching role, which I went over also very quickly, you have the ability to create new work assignments, either from features or searching on the map or just clicking on the map if you'd like to do that. And there's a whole workflow inside of the back office application for the assignment of work, perhaps the reassignment of work, searching for workers and looking at their locations. That can be important to you if you're using that application throughout the day. If perhaps you're just supervising the work that's happening in the field, it's not necessarily the right application for that. We kind of recommend you use Operations Dashboard, because then you could merge together both the assignments schema as well as the work that's getting done in Survey123 or Collector. You see how many jobs have been completed, what was done, and the status of each of those work items can all be kind of merged together into one common view for that manager. One of the last things we want to get to the What's New demo is being able to manage the work that you do. So today, Workforce integrates with all of our mobile applications that we provide. But coming soon, relatively soon, or if you want to go behind the scenes and hack the JSON, you can integrate other applications. And we've talked to a number of partners that are doing this today. For example, think about actually integrating augmented reality applications within a Workforce project. So I get a work assignment, I get to the job location, I want to open up an AR application and view that. Or for a planning purpose, maybe I want to integrate with a weather application so I can see the weather in the area before I get to it. That's all possible by editing the JSON, and we're going to make that available when Craig gets around to it inside of the product as well. Workers, we kind of talked about the workers already. They have details, they have status. That's something I didn't point out, but as I mentioned earlier on, you know where each mobile worker is, and you have a working status, kind of like a Skype status if you use Skype. I'm either online, I'm on a break, or I'm offline. When you do that, that status is sent back to the office, and the dispatcher knows your status. They know if you're actively working or on a break. So when they're making decisions about who to assign work to, they know where you are. And there's a date timestamp on that, so when you've last been at that location, they're aware of it and how stale that location is. All right, Craig, it's a lot of talking. Back to you. You're smirking, I'm afraid.
I don't know why you'd be afraid. You've just been talking for half an hour about me, so now it's my turn. I wouldn't be worried at all, dude.
It's going to come back to me, buddy.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So I'm going to take you through a couple of the enhancements that we've done to Workforce over the last. How's that? Is that okay? Can you guys hear me at the back all right? Yeah. Is it fading in and out? Here you go.
Oh, this?
Yeah. There we go. Actually, my mic wasn't fading out. I just didn't want you to have the mic while I'm talking. I'll just put this over here. There we go. So, all right, so I'm going to take you through some of the new stuff that we've added to Workforce in the last little bit. The first one, like Jeff mentioned, we have these Python scripts that we made available. We've also been working with Rohit, who you saw on Monday during the plenary, showing the Python and Jupyter Notebooks. Rohit and his team, Aaron's been pulling together a module for Workforce that's in the Python API now, so it's really easy to actually use Python to automate anything with Workforce. One of the things that we took out of that and actually built into the product was the ability to bulk load users. So like Jeff showed, you can go and search for different users in the organization, and it's really easy to do that. So it's really streamlined for sort of adding users one by one into a project. But once you get to like 4 or 5, it gets old quickly, trust me, because I've done it more than anybody. So what we wanted to do was add the ability to load them in from a file. So we looked at how online and enterprise do it in terms of adding named users into an organization. Took a little bit of inspiration from them and how they handle it. This is an example of the comma delimited file that we take as input for it. So the user ID, that's the named user in the organization, the title, their job title of what it is, their contact number, and then any notes. So that was, we wanted to keep it really simple, really straightforward, just a comma delimited file. But we also wanted to make it a little easier for you to do this. This is a shout out to our web designer, whose idea was to have this template to be able to download ahead of time and actually pre-populate it with workers in the project. So if you've taken the time to manually create a project, spin it up, add, even if it's just a half dozen workers. Some sites, we have one site, our largest one has over 1,000 workers in a project. Think about redoing that from scratch, right? That's a lot. I wouldn't want to do that. That's a lot of typing. So the ability to actually download all those workers into a template CSV file to easily move that around is really powerful. The other case where it comes in handy is if you have repeating work that's either done seasonally or from year to year. A couple examples we have are, like yearly meter exchanges or valve exercising, things where you have projects in each year and you create a new project each year. You just want to be able to reload those workers in so you can get that project spun up really quickly and get up and running. That's where this comes in handy, to be able to download them all into a CSV and see how it looks. You can also go and import that. So I'll go and select the CSV file, and it goes through. What it does is it goes and takes a look at the file, makes sure, that everybody it's going to be adding can be added. Looks for a couple common errors that we found. One is duplicate users. That was actually my fault one day because I made a copy-paste error. Couldn't figure out why it wasn't working, and our developer said it's because you had the same person in there twice. Said maybe we should catch that for you. So it's a good example where I planned that to happen. But if you duplicate it and make a mistake, it'll handle it. The other one is that if there's a user who doesn't exist, right? So if you mistype the user ID or they've been removed from the organization, their named user is no longer in it, we'll catch that as well and let you know that we're not going to import them. So I can go and add those users and see I've got 6 different users that are added here with all the information filled out for them. What their job titles are. Their badges are there for some of them because we're linking to their profile within the organization. We've got their phone number as well. This isn't just adding them into that workers feature service that's there. If we go and take a look at the group, here we go, let's refresh to make sure we got the latest version of it. We'll actually go and take a look at the group that we have here. And then we see we've got 6 members, and when we look, those are the 6 members. So it's also making those same calls through the JS API to make sure that not only are the records in the workers feature service, but they've got the correct group permissions. So for anybody who's tried to add workers by just editing that workers feature service and not doing it to the group, this is the way to do it, so it's nice and easy, foolproof, takes care of it for you. Okay? So that's some of the things we did sort of on the administrative side to make it a little easier for you. I want to head over to another project to show some of the work that we've done with app integrations lately. So Jeff talked about this a little bit with Workforce. We're able to call out to additional applications. So there's a couple things that I want to highlight here. The first one is I'm going to go and set up a project to integrate with Collector. I'll go and take a look for a particular project or a particular web map that I have. We'll use the water meter exchange one. What this dialog is doing is it's displaying all of the web maps in my organization that I have access to that can be used in Collector. So it's saying, here's all the ones that you need to be aware of that you can integrate and use with Workforce. Something to be aware of, though, when you do this, I'm currently signed in as the project owner. In this case, I'm an org administrator. What do org administrators have access to? Everything, right? Do your workers have access to everything? I guarantee he doesn't, right? Because he put that hydrant in the middle of the bay, right? So be careful when you're here. We did this on purpose because we realized that, a lot of times you're going to be spinning these things up as org administrators or project owners, and it's not going to be ready for prime time yet. So we didn't want to only display what your workers are going to see because we wanted to give you the chance to set everything up. Then you could go and share those out with the Workforce group, with those users to make sure that it's shared out properly, right? So don't forget that step. So the next thing I'll do is I can go and integrate it either at the project or the assignment type level. It was really interesting when we first started doing this and talking to sites about integrating the different apps with Workforce. We said, yeah, that's cool. It's super easy. We could easily call either Collector or Survey or Navigator, or Explorer when it was released. Call out to it. Yep, we'll set that up at the project level, and right away we heard, well, that's no good. I mean, I've got there's 5 different types of work in here. I don't use Collector for all of them. I certainly don't use the same web map for all of these, right? So the type of work you do, like Jeff was talking about, the way that your dispatchers and workers talk to one another, but the type of work that's being done doesn't just apply to Workforce, it also extends to that app that's being called, whether it's Survey or Collector or whatever it might be. Maybe it's Explorer doing markup, like Heather showed in the plenary on Monday, right? Where she was in that stand that they were going to cut down. She found a rare bird's nest. She just threw markup there, right? So there's a number of different options for it. My point is that you can take these these app integrations and put them down to the assignment type level. So that Collector will only be available to be called when I'm doing a water meter change or a water meter change and inspection. Okay? I can now select some information that I want to pass from Workforce to Collector. We've been moving really purposefully with this and sort of diligently. There's a couple of different ways that we could have done this. Right now, we allow you to pass 3 different fields that you can specify. We always pass the geometry or the shape of the assignment. Okay? Because we make the assumption that, if you're sending someone to a location where that assignment is, that's probably where you might want to start, collecting data or creating the survey, or, navigating to it. So we're always going to pass the XY, that lat long of the assignment, into the app that we're calling so it can use it. But we also allow you to pass these other information if you need to, such as the location, right? So I talked about earlier, you can take the actual location of that asset, have that in the pop-up, that gets pushed over to the location of the assignment. You can then take that location and you can send it back to, say, survey or collector. So that location can follow the work around, right? All through the process. The same thing with the work order ID or the ID. Whatever you call this in your organization, you might call it ID, work order ID, job number, service request. There's a bunch of different names for it, right? This is that identifier that follows the work. You might call it like a foreign key or the value that identifies what's being done. This follows it everywhere, right? You can specify this to pass it through. The last one we support right now is the global ID. This gives you the ability to take the global ID of the assignment feature in Workforce, so the GUID, right? That alphanumeric string that we assign to it that's unique, and pass that into, say, collector or survey. Well, what's the value of that? Well, now you can link those two together if you need to, right? So if you want to associate the features that you're collecting, the surveys you're creating in those apps back to the assignment in Workforce, using the global ID, to do that, to take it from the assignment and pass it into a string field in that calling feature service is the way to do it. Now you can create joins on it, so you can merge all that data together to be able to relate which features in collector and survey are related to assignments in Workforce. So I'll walk through this really quick. I'll go and select the location. I kept this super simple. There's just one layer in my collector web map to be able to select from. And then I'll go and select which field to do. Again, I kept it super simple because it's an 8:30 session. So it's the address that I'm passing to in collector, and now I'm done. I'm ready to go. I could continue to map other fields along, right? I could pick ID in this same layer, and I could choose one of these two. No one judge me for what I'm choosing. It's just an example, right? To pass it into that location and add it to it. But you'll notice that the location, the address field isn't there anymore, right? So we're only letting you pass into collector or survey just that one field one time, right? It's that field mapping that you're doing, okay? So I can go and add that, hit done. It's going to go and set up that integration for me. Great, now it's set up. Now, whenever I'm in Workforce and I open up an assignment that's either water meter change or water meter change and inspection, it's going to allow me to call it to collector. The last one I'd like to show is Explorer. Explorer was just released this year, and when it was, we started looking at integrating with Explorer. We didn't really have a use case for it, which that's recorded, that's cool, but it was a brand new app, and we said, you know what, no one's really asking us for this, but we're pretty sure there's going to be use cases that come about. And you saw that on Monday again. I'll talk about what Heather from JD Irving showed, the idea of actually using, instead of using Collector or Survey123, using Explorer to quickly mark up information quick and fast. Now that we've integrated Explorer with Workforce, we've gotten some of those use cases start to roll in slowly, right? So not just having access to, as we describe it, your beautiful web maps that are authored to be available in Explorer online, offline, but also be able to do markup on it as well. So I'll pick a real easy one. I'll pick San Diego here. But the key thing that I want to mention here is this is providing me with the web maps and also the MMPKs or the mobile map packages that I can download. And you can see the difference between it because there's the little image in the right-hand corner also telling me how large it is to download. Just like with Collector and Survey, I can specify whether this is at the project or the type level, and I'll keep this at the project, and then we'll finish that off, and it'll go and add that integration. So now that that integration's added, I can go into Workforce and I can open up the different assignments that are available to me, and I can see the integrations that are set up like I talked about to be able to see what information is there. And if we go and take a look at what I have, I can go and open up my water meter and change inspection. When I do that, you see I can navigate to the inspection, I can also collect at it, or I could explore at it. And when I launch Explorer, it's going to sign me in and it's going to start to automatically download that map package for me and make it available on my device so I can get ready to go. Okay? So just a really quick intro in terms of some of the new things we've added to Workforce over the last little bit. All of these, well, except for the Explorer one, but all of these are actually feedback we got from you. This is what we need to hear, so that Jeff and I have the information, the use cases, the scenarios. So when we get asked questions from, I don't know, our, let's say, project manager, why would you do that? Do we really need to do that? That doesn't make any sense, Craig. I can say it does make sense because Susan told me at the end of the session on Wednesday, blah. There'd be more to blah, but my point is that's what we need to hear from you, is what you need us to do so we can help set that priority list so we can really focus our time on the areas that are going to benefit you the most. Whether it's here, whether it's through our feedback alias in the apps, you can get to it either through the web app up here in terms of provide feedback. It's also in the mobile app, or the GeoNet post. You can let us know as well, or you can email jshaner@esri.com, and he's very responsive to emails. But that's feedback that we want to hear. So all these things I showed are what we heard from you. So hopefully we can get a little bit more discussions on that this week. But I'm going to pass it back to Jeff, who's going to talk a little bit about what's next.
You can pass that back.
Yeah, I'm going to pass them back.
Well, Craig has one more demo, and we're short on time, so I'll be pretty quick with this. Perhaps the biggest next new feature we're working on within Workforce is taking your projects offline. So you can work in areas where there's no internet connectivity. Today, we'll just cache that list of work assignments, but things like the updates to the assignments when you start them and complete them, we can't manage that without a transactional data store on the mobile client, and that's what we're adding next. The other piece that we wanted to work on, which rarely happens in Craig's instance, is that he completes his work on time or even early, perhaps, and wants to pick up work that's around him that isn't assigned to anyone yet so he can complete it. Or perhaps, in his day-to-day work, he has a feeling that there's just kind of a feeling that there's some work around him that might need to be done. You could pick that up and do it based on where he's at. So that's another new capability that we have planned. In the back office, being able to handle more of the fields and passing information over to Survey and Collector, also integration with custom apps. And finally, one thing I wanted to mention is when you create a Workforce project, you're the owner of that item, right? And that's kind of the standard way that the architecture works within ArcGIS Online and Portal. But it would be nice if multiple project owners, maybe Craig's out for the day and I need to update the schema, having the ability for multiple project owners to do that update is important. So with that, we wanted to kind of almost shift a little bit. I talked about some of the use cases earlier that were examples of how our customers have started to use Workforce in cases where they don't really care so much about the work assignments, but the location awareness is important. So we've been taking that piece of it and branching it off and studying additional use cases and starting to build a product around it. And that's what location tracking for ArcGIS is about. And these are some of the use cases. It might be knowing the location of your mobile worker when they're doing that work so that it's you can be accountable for the work. Maybe it's doing inspection along a pipeline. Back in the office when it was completed, where that worker had gone and where they were when the work was completed, because they have to document that for regulatory purposes. Or maybe that's that end of day assessment in the search operation that I talked about with Elmore County, or even during the day, because though it's not real-time information that we're talking about here, it's the location tracks and where you have gone through the day. You don't need to wait to the end of the day to make decisions against it. So there's a lot of different use cases that we have. Craig showed in the plenary, if you were there for the 3 minutes of fame that he had on stage, how you could complete a homelessness count in Portland, Maine, and leverage the location to make sure that you didn't miss anyone that you needed to count for. So we would like to hear, just as Craig was mentioning on Workforce, what your needs are around location tracking, so that we can build out those examples and help others understand the value of the technology we're about to bring forward. What is it? What is location tracking? It's a new organizational capability. An administrator of an organization can enable location tracking for their entire set of named users within the organization, and that'll create a NoSQL data store. We're envisioning that there's going to be a lot of information coming in, potentially a lot of throughput of data with all the location tracks of all the workers. So we need to manage that inside of a NoSQL data store. We'll have a very simple, lightweight, kind of schedule-driven tracking experience in an application that Craig will show you in a bit that seamlessly supports drifting in and out of connectivity. So if you're working offline, we'll store that information on the device and then burst it back to the service, and you won't have to worry about that yourself. It's really optimized for low battery consumption and can just run in the background. So you just set up your calendar, your schedule, and forget about it. And we'll have a web application that supports the sharing of that information throughout the organization in a very secure way, so that as the administrator, you can determine who within the organization can see tracks from field workers and who can't. Just a view of that architecture, and a key aspect of it is that Tracker as an app on the mobile device is responsible for storing the tracks, capturing those tracks, but the data store on the device can be shared with other applications. It can be shared with Workforce, shared with Collector, and the other apps that we have. That data is uploaded into, if it's ArcGIS Enterprise, a spatiotemporal big data store, and then provided out through feature services so applications and dashboards can consume that and visualize it within the organization. Really quick overview. I'm going to pass it back to Craig to demonstrate it. Oh, you want this?
Okay. So how many people saw my demo in the plenary? Seriously? What, you took off for lunch? You had to get to tin fish before they rush? Which I don't blame you, but. All right, so I'll kind of go through it again. We got about 12 minutes left here. I'll go through it again for those of you who weren't able to make it for it. It's also available online. You can see the videos actually for all the plenary now, or available online, so you can take a look at it as well at your leisure later on to see all the different things that we showed. But as Jeff said, one of the scenario that I showed on Monday was performing a homeless count in Portland, Maine. We've been talking to different users and different sites, getting their requirements and talking to them about their use cases. We've got actually a patterns doc that we put together that kind of defines like 8 to 10 different patterns of how people are actually walking or moving about as they're using location tracking. There are several different patterns. There's ones like a homeless count where you actually need to cover the entire network of where you're going in the area that you're targeting. There's other scenarios like Jeff showed that he talked about in terms of site selection for commercial businesses. That's sort of more of a starburst sort of thing where you're walking sort of from node to node and then you're doing a lot of intensive work around an area and then walking to another one. There's end-of-day assessments for disasters where you really need to show that you're walking around buildings and you need to have a high degree of confidence that you walked around it. So all these different patterns are things that we look at with respect to location tracking. The homeless count is one that I showed, and because we're using location tracking, we're actually able to monitor the location of all the people who are performing the count and working on it. But in addition to the location, we also get other information associated with them. So you can see we have an identity, so we know what their name is. We've got the time that they moved, so there's a date timestamp associated with that point. That's the date timestamp of when that track was collected on the device. It's not the date timestamp of when it was uploaded or when it was edited last, which they can't do. It wasn't anything like that. That's when they collected that data on the device. There's also the speed that's available for them in meters per second, and it's very easy to convert that. We get the direction. We're displaying it in our web apps as the 8 points of the compass, but we're returning it to you as the degrees, so anywhere from 0 to 360 that are returned to us. So you can use that direction, to get a sense of travel and how people are going. Activity is one. People have Fitbits or Apple Watches, any wearables in the audience, or use Strava, anything like that if you're familiar with it, right? We're using the APIs that are on the different devices on iOS and Android and made available to us. Core Motion, the fitness APIs that are there. We're not directly interacting with the GPS ourselves and gathering that information or hitting the instruments. We're pulling this in from these APIs. That's really what the different, both Apple and Google have done, in terms of making the fitness apps available, is they need to make these APIs very performant, providing a lot of information for you, tying into the different instruments that are on the device, and also low battery use. So we're using those. One of the things that we can get from that is the activity. And it's returned to us in a number of different ways. Just, sort of really quickly on it, it's a best estimate. So when I'm doing this, what do you think the API is telling me? It's 100% confident this device is moving, but it has no idea what I'm doing. So it's 100% confident I'm moving, and I'm 100% confident I don't know what you're doing, right? So if I walk over to that front row, then what happens? I'm 100% confident it's moving, and I think it might be walking. I'm sort of low confidence on that. I walk a little bit further to the back of the room. I know you're moving, and I'm really confident you're walking. So we can take that information, get the different confidence levels from it to figure that out. It's really interesting when you're on a long articulated bus and you're actually walking to the back of the bus while it's going forward. It has no idea what you're doing at that point. That data was really wild. Yeah, it's like it just threw its hands up in the air. It's like, I don't know, it's doing something. So that's the activity that we get, right? And you can symbolize them based on different things. There's driving, there's walking, there's not moving, there's running, there's paddleboarding. The other one we have is accuracy. So we've got the horizontal and the vertical accuracy that are available to us. We have the altitude of where you are. We've also got the battery state and whether it's being charged, whether it's plugged or unplugged. And I'll kind of circle back to that in a second. But what we also have is a record of where everyone's gone. And these are the location tracks for everyone who is performing this count. So these are actually people in our Portland main office who went out to collect this data and gather the data with the location tracking app. And if I head over here to the home view of it, you can see, here's all the tracks that are available for people. And I just kind of clicked on one of them. We're gathering the tracks as points on the device and uploading them as points. We're symbolizing them as lines. We did a bunch of work, looked at different competitors, tested it ourselves, a number of different things. And we settled on, points are simple, efficient, easy for us to upload, like Jeff said, in bursts and pushing those up. But in terms of symbolization, viewing them on the map, it's much easier to view them as lines. And you can kind of see that when I head over to the mobile app to actually show, where I am. As I zoom in, you can start to see I get some directionality to my path now. It's actually also a lot easier to see with these different patterns I talked about, the 8 to 10 different patterns we have. It's much easier to actually look at a line going around a building and be able to visually recognize, yes, that was covered very quickly, as opposed to points. It's easier to see that direction of travel throughout that line. Same thing with the site selection, right? It's a lot easier to see the lines as opposed to points. It's very difficult to sort of decompose and discern for yourself. So we've chosen to symbolize these as lines. You have access to all this track data. We don't filter out anything. We're not cutting anything out. If we get one with an accuracy of 500 feet, we keep it. Why? Because we don't know if it's valuable to you or not. That's up to you to decide, right? Whether that data should be trimmed, should be removed out once it gets up in your feature service. You can also use that to trim it out using things like geoanalytics and their reconstruct tracks tool, which is what we use to reconstruct the tracks here in the dashboard, okay? So you can recreate those tracks, filter out what you don't need to see there. So, when I'm looking at this location, you can see I get a little bit of information as I was traveling the other day. This is actually my walk on Monday to the plenary, and I was the last one to arrive at 6:47 a.m. For the plenary practice, which is depressing. That I was the last one at 6:45 in the morning. But you can see I could access my tracks for that day that are there, but I can also go back in time because we keep up to 3 days of tracks on the device available to you that are set. Okay? So they're always there, so you can always go back and see where you were. Jeff talked about it being a really simple app, really straightforward, and that's the idea behind it. You start the app, you share your location, and that's it. Now the app can go in the background, I can go and do other things. Really, that's all you need to do. Okay? And I can say that for these reasons, because what we're doing is if you're in an area that doesn't have Wi-Fi or cell coverage, we just keep the tracks on the device. The app goes and says, hey, can I reach that server? I'm supposed to, no, I can't get there, no connection. All right, that's cool, we'll just keep collecting the tracks, keep collecting them, right? We can go weeks just collecting them in the SQLite database. And then once you get into an area where you do have coverage, you can see that it's going to sync and it's going to upload those, right? So I didn't have to do anything, right? I just turned tracking on, it saw that I had a connection, and it pushed my tracks up. I don't have to hit upload, I don't have to hit sync. This just takes care of it for me. So that really allows us to run this both foreground, background, and also online, offline, right? You don't have to choose to go offline. You just start the app and go, okay? Because we built it to be a background app, we wanted to build in this idea of reminders. So it's important for you to know when you're sharing your location, but it's just as important for you to be confident that your location isn't shared when you're not working and you've got to take the dog for a walk at 10 o'clock at night, right? So you don't want the people who are looking at your tracks, because that's part of your job, to be able to see where you're going after work and what's going on. So we built in a reminder schedule to remind you when to turn off or turn on tracking. So I can set this up for myself and configure when I should set it up and when I shouldn't. The last thing I'll mention is, did anybody notice anything different about this app, the way it looks? Dark mode. Who likes dark mode? Yeah, you just made a designer so freaking happy right now. He is stoked. Yeah. Tell your friends. They love it. That's right. Yeah. So, so I've got my reminder set up. I can go and set up location tracking on it. The other thing is that we have other apps that do location tracking as well, right? Collector has it. It only works in the foreground. Workforce has it. It works foreground, background. The battery is not as efficient as it should be in Workforce, and we know that. It also does it based on a frequency, right? So every 15, 30, 60 seconds, which means what happens when my device is sitting here? It just piles the points up, right? Every 30 seconds. It doesn't matter if you're moving. You told us to get a point. Every 30 seconds, we just keep getting points, right? So there's a number of things we've improved with location tracking on top of Workforce, but we also recognize that these tracks need to be available to you. The other field apps will be able to read the track data on the device in that SQLite database and be able to display it. So when you're in Collector, for example, you can see your tracks right alongside the data you're collecting. So you can figure out where you've been as you've gone about your day, right? So you can answer that question. Did I circle that building? It's been a long day, I'm not sure where I went. You can easily turn the tracks on in the app you're using, see where you went, turn them back off, keep doing your work. Okay? The last thing I'll mention is that the data is secured because security and access is important to you. So by default, users can only see their tracks. So I only see mine, Jeff only sees his. We're using view configurations to set it up so that those users in your organization who have permissions to view the tracks of others, like crew leaders, supervisors, department heads, they can see the tracks of the people who's, they're either direct line managers for, the timesheets they can see, but general users can't. Even if they just hit the REST endpoint, they're only ever going to see their data. They can't see the data of others.
Are you setting that up in the settings?
The question was, are you setting that up in the settings? Yes, we are doing that for you by default. Yeah. So when we create, the way that we're going to work this is that tracking will be something that's enabled at the organization level. We create this NoSQL feature service in the back end like Jeff talked about. We turn on ownership-based access control right on that feature service for you. And then we'll have an experience to configure these views so the different users in your organization can have access just to the tracks that they should have access to. Okay.
So just mention that right there. Since you have the mic.
Oh, I do have the mic, yeah. So we have a private beta going on now. So I know all of you follow Jeff Shaner on the Twitter and the blogosphere. So he threw out a blog on Monday afternoon talking about location tracking that we're building, that it's coming to both online and enterprise. Everything I showed here was on enterprise, not online, right? So this is actually a little different than most of our apps that we're building. We're hitting enterprise first because the abilities are there for us. So we have a private beta going on now that if you're interested, you can go to that blog and it tells you how to get involved in it for both iOS and Android. And then we're targeting Q2 of next year for 10.7 and for online for it to be in full release. So, is that it? You good? Yeah.
Yeah. Kick it off.
Oh, and take the surveys, please. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll stick around for a little bit. If anybody has any questions, thank you very much for attending.